Hey guys, now we'll code up the logging out and automatic signing in features. The basic idea is to look at the user authentication status, then act accordingly. For logging out feature, let's print the user authentication information in the logout did tap method. To do this, we use the current user property for the FIR auth shared instance. Our motivation is to confirm that, for now, if we tap out the logout button, nothing will happen, because we haven't done anything yet. Alright, here's the app. Let's tap the logout button. Okay, the app can still access the user authentication information, meaning the user is still signed in. Our plan is to make this become nil when this logout button is tapped. It's quite easy actually. The FIR class, auth class, provides us with a method specifically for this task called, sign out. It's easy to guess. However, we can't just call it directly like this. This method might fail for whatever reason, like network error or things like that. In Swift 2, for methods that can throw an error like this, we need to use a keyword called try. Basically means, I know there might be an error, but that's okay, let's try run it. But still, Swift won't comply. It's like, hey, you know this method might fail, so you need to do something about errors. So we need to handle the error using the do catch syntax. In the catch block, we get the error that might occur, then handle it properly. Here, we simply print out the error, but it's up to you how to handle it. In the do block, we try to execute the method that might throw this error. The reason behind this is we want to silence the error, in the hope that the app will less likely to crash even if there's an error in calling this sign out method. Alright, let's test it out. Great! Now the user authentication information is nil, meaning the user is logged out successfully. Alright, good. Now, before moving on, let's set the login view controller the initial view. Then, choose the login view controller Swift file. Now, consider a situation when users turn off the app instead of logging out. We want to sign them in automatically when they open the app again. We'll do that by overriding the viewDidLoad method in the login view controller. Because the login view is now the initial view, it'll show up first when users open the app. When it finishes loading, we want to check the user authentication status before doing anything. So let's first copy over the print command from the chat view controller to see the user authentication status. If your app has a splash view, you can display it first instead. Wait, we forgot to import the authentication stuff. So let's import the Firebase auth library. Alright, good. Let's try again. You can even do the other way around by letting the chat view be the initial view. Then, if users logged out previously, we switch to the login view. Okay, the user authentication is nil. We previously logged out. Let's log in and simulate the situation we're interested in. Alright. When we built the login feature, we mentioned that if we keep users sign in and rerun the project, the authentication information is still saved on the simulator. So it's kind of like when you turn off the app, then open it again. Alright. The authentication is not nil, meaning the user is still signed in. In this situation, we want to automatically switch views. We already implemented the switching view feature when we built the login feature. Our plan now is to let the app know the authentication status when the login view shows up, then perform switching view if necessary. A straightforward way is to directly check if the user authentication is nil or not, but Firebase offers a method specifically for this purpose. This method belongs to the FIR auth class. As usual, we'll call this method on the shared instance auth of the class. The method is called addAuthStateDidChangeListener. It kind of helps the app monitor the user authentication status so that the app sort of knows what's going on with the user authentication. After the method was executed, the app then knows the authentication and user information. Let's call them auth and user. It becomes very clear now. We simply check if the user is authenticated, then switch view. But first, let's print out the user information to see what's really going on under the hood. On the other hand, if the user is signed out previously, then we do nothing, but let's print something out to be sure. Like unauthorized. Alright, good. Let's check it out. You don't need to use this listener, but it's probably faster or more robust if you decide to use it. There must be some reason for Firebase to offer this method, right? Alright, the app is actively listening to the authentication status. Now, let's change the authentication status by first switching to the chat view, because we want to access the logout button. Now, let's log out. Alright, great. The unauthorized string is printed to the console. It means the app is able to keep track of the authentication status. Now, we simply switch view if the user is signed in already. We can use the switching view helper function we implemented earlier. Alright, let's copy it over. We need to automatically switch from the login view to the chat view when the app confirmed that the user was authenticated. This method belongs to the helper class, and we call it on the shared instance of the class. Okay, good. Let's see. Alright, there's an error. Oh yeah, we previously let this private method of the helper class because till now we haven't used it outside the class. Simply change it to a public method so that we can access it elsewhere. Alright, let's check it out. We previously logged out, the login view will show up and nothing will happen then. We can see that the authentication is nil. Alright, so let's sign in to authenticate ourselves. Now, we pretend this user turns off the app without signing in, by simply rerunning the app. Alright, let's check it out. Okay, fantastic. You can see the authentication information printed to the console, and the app switches view automatically. If you want to display a splash view or something like that, simply make it the initial view controller, then do this business when overriding its viewDidLoad method. Alright, next time we'll sync up user information between the app and the database. See you then!